Welcome to episode 201 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week is part 1 of our Clair Obscur Expedition 33 series. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Travis Colnett, and with me I have two friends. The first friend, you know her, you love her. Her name is Katie Lesperance.
Oh, hi. I get to steal your hi this time and not feel bad about it.
You get to do the hi. Wow, great. And the second friend, you know her, you love her too. Her name is Flora Marigold.
When one falls, we continue.
I love how somber that is. And it's dramatic and somber. Love it. Let's go.
Love it. We are talking about Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on this week's episode. Before we go any farther, I have two small requests. If you like this show, please give it a review on your podcasting platform of choice because that really helps. And to keep up with what we're doing and what games we're playing next, give us a follow on Blue Sky on leftbehindgameclub.bskies.social. This week we're going to be getting into Clair Obscur Expedition 33. If you've been listening to the last couple episodes, you will know that Katie, Flora, and myself have been on and off gushing about this game. If you're listening and if we're paying attention in the Discord, you know we've been talking about it nonstop. And it may be a new game, but we're really excited to talk about it, so we're going to deep dive right into it. It is developed by Sandfall Interactive, published by Kepler Interactive. It came out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, and it came out on April 24th, 2025. You'll notice I'm hosting today because Jacob did not play it.
What?
Womp womp.
How?
Sorry.
How? And also, he was all hyped about it. He's like, talking about the memes, talking about all the characters and how hot everybody is, but then not playing it. Like, I don't understand how you see the cast of characters in this game and then go like, later time. No.
Later.
It was required.
There's no way. Yeah, so we needed someone to host, and so I was like, well, I'm going to give it a shot. And, I mean, this one is probably the one with the most baked-in segue of any of the games that we've played, because I could literally just say, we continue, and we move on to the next topic, right? So,
very good.
So before we go any farther, we're going to start with a fast pitch. It's a one-sentence description of the game that we played. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Because I don't have a lot. So I'm going to say JRPG, but if Thanos was French and a loner on a hill. Was he a loner on a hill? He kind of was, wasn't he? So
Yeah,
just French.
loner in a shack?
But he's just French.
Yeah.
Super French Thanos.
Yeah.
That's it. With JRPG and timing and rhythmic elements.
My God. Flora, do you want me to go or do you want to go next?
I'm inclined to just answer the fast pitch this episode with Wee Woo. If you're familiar with the character Esquier, or some similar quote about like it's better to have lost a rock than never had one at all, or something like that. I guess in that sense, my fast pitch is just because everything else will be said about this game. Clair Obscur is one of the funniest games of 2025.
Legit.
Yeah?
It's so funny.
It is. You're right.
It's so funny. With my fast pitch, I was like, okay, you know how you usually do like two games kind of meet together? I was like, what if Paper Mario Color Splash met Elden Ring bosses and you kind of get those two together? Color Splash, legit. When that clicked in my brain, I was like, oh, it's Paper Mario because of the buttons, but then the Color Splash is legit. You're going around painting characters that had their paint sucked out of them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is Paper Mario Color Splash. And that's kind of where my half an hour went earlier today.
Nice.
Just looking up Paper Mario Color Splash comparisons.
You're right, though. These bosses are so from Softy. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple, like I took
yeah.
some screenshots and sent them to some people and it was like, this is that you could have told me that this is a screenshot out of either Elden Ring, maybe a Dark Souls, Elden Ring, really, with like just the colors and the lights and stuff. And I would have been like, maybe. I don't remember that one, but you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably talk more about bosses later, but maybe I want to try a FromSoft game now because of this game. So
wow.
Who knows? Who am I? Who knows? So how did you guys play? I picked it up on PS5 a couple days after. I was looking for like a physical edition, and they were sold out almost immediately. Best Buy was not reliable. So then I ended up buying it digitally and played it that way. What about you guys?
Digital PS5.
Nice.
And PC, day one it.
Nice. This was also a day one Game Pass game, which was kind of cool. But so a lot of people got their hands on it, but it still did really good sales wise. Like I think there was a funny little milestone. They sold 3.3 million copies in 33 days, which was kind of fun. A little tidbit. I know, that's nuts. I kind of love it. I love that kind of stuff. So let's set up the story. Obviously, this game is a very story-heavy game, so we are going to be spoiling it. We're not going to hard spoil anything until later. We'll give you a spoiler wall for that. But initially, we're going to kind of give you the setup, but we are going to be talking about this game, and it's a new game, and it's very good. So if you're interested in playing, go play this, and then come back and listen to our episode. Does anyone want to tackle the setup of the story? If not, I can.
You go for it, Travis. Lay it out for us.
Yeah, okay. So basically, it's a fantasy belly puck kind of
I
setting.
have to interrupt. We will be really annoying.
Yes.
Me and Travis are going to be really annoying
with our French,
with our French pronunciation, as we are both French Canadians, and we both speak French fluently.
Yep.
And so we're going to be saying some words with an annoying French accent. You know those people who travel abroad and then come back and say certain words with a flair? I'm sorry. We're going to be those people a little bit.
Yep.
So yes.
I'm going to say it.
Move on with your belly puck there.
Maybe I'll lean in the opposite direction, and I'll give hard Renoir and
Americanize everything
Belle
as hard as
Epoque.
possible.
Renroy?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, just to balance it out.
Great. Okay, so there is a godlike figure called the Paintress that paints a giant number in the sky, and that indicates the maximum age that the remains of humanity are allowed to live. So every year, that number decreases, and anyone that is older than that number gets erased in something that is called the gommage. So the game follows a group called Expedition 33. They're a group of people that use the last year of their life to embark on a mission to destroy the Paintress before the next gommage takes place. That's the very basics of the story there. This story takes a lot of twists and turns, a lot of reveals that happen along the way. We are going to discuss more of that later on. But also this game is a really, really, really good turn-based RPG combat with really good combat systems. So do we want to kind of talk about the basic gameplay setup before we go?
Sure.
I actually wanted to linger on a tiny bit of opening story. Before we get to the actual gameplay, if that's all right. So, I think what's memorable for me is I picked up this game at a sort of emotionally difficult time in my life, and the result of that, and I wonder how I would have reacted to this in general, but within the first 30 minutes of this game, I was crying quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think what's lovely is that this game has such an instant ability to establish world, sort of buy into the world and the craziness that you just outlined, but also the characters, most importantly, which is anchor the whole game together, both in terms of gameplay and in story. And for me, this was a 0 to 10 sort of experience for me, where I was oh, I see this has really good review scores. I kind of like the pitch of Sekiro meets Final Fantasy X or whatever. And all of a sudden, I was captured just that quickly, and I think that's really remarkable.
That prologue is nuts.
So I didn't get I heard a lot of people say that they were like emotionally devastated by that prologue. I did not feel emotionally devastated, but I was like, oh, this feels like it feels like a very confident game. Like it's very it's very settled in. I feel like it's not trying to push you too hard. It's not trying to be like, look at me, I'm so good, and like try to it doesn't try too hard to get your attention right away. It just kind of happens. And you're like, no, this is just really good. The setting's really good. The characters are they are interesting, but they're subtle. You know, it's not like they're not rambunctious. They're not like coming out and telling crazy jokes and like trying to get your attention that quickly. It's just like it just eases you in, and it's just so good. Like my older brother, who it's now a casual gamer these days, was like, how about this game? I've heard a lot about it. I'm like, you should do it right now. And then he finished the prologue and was like, I'm in. And I haven't been this in on a game in like a decade, because it's just, I don't know, it's just easy.
Yeah. The word that you said, it's subtle.
Yeah.
Like that's the key word for me there. It's that the world is so insane. There's crazy things to look at, even in this prologue setting area. But you're doing, like, it intros you to the combat pretty, like, you're doing simple stuff, but you're getting the basic down. But there's weirdness, but there's a deep sadness also, and grief, and every character has something interesting to say, but it's not beating you over the head with it. It's subtle, and you're like, I want to know more. And it drip feeds you just a little bit to keep you wanting to know more about what is happening. And yeah, I agree in that, like, okay, I knew I wanted to play this game from the get-go before it even came out, but then everyone was saying, wow, that was the prologue. So because I know what the setup is, I was like, okay, clearly this is going to happen. Yeah, my expectation, I think, came down because I didn't go in blind. But it was still just the work that they do, making you care so quickly in such a short span of time. Like, if anyone has Game Pass, like, play the prologue. And if you're not jiving with that, then okay, sure, don't jive with it, but like play that prologue. And it's a half an hour of your time. It's so good.
I think you said it's so sad. It did strike me. I'm like, oh, this is like one of the most melancholy games, or melancholic. I don't, is that the adjective? Games that words. Words. That I can think of. That's also, like you said, Flora, that's so funny. Like, frickin', what's his name? What's the Rock's name that SK's friends with?
Francois?
Flory.
Flory.
No, not Flory.
Flory's the one he loses.
Yes.
There's the cantankerous other rock guy.
Yeah, that he's like his neighbors with, and they're like warring neighbors that kind of hate each other but kind of love each other. Like, it's dumb stuff like that that's so funny amidst this story that's just like so sad and like doom filled. I don't know, it's just unique. The setting is really unique. Like this like French Belle Époque, but also fantastical, surreal. There's colors and like how everyone's dressed looks great. Like the whole vibe of the entire game is just so cool.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. Yes, everyone's so cool. They are. I think I said this earlier on, but I was like, the way Maelle just kind of flips her sword and holds her hands behind her, I'm like, she's so cool. It's just, I don't know. I sound like a huge nerd saying it, but they're just so cool.
We're all nerds. It's okay.
I know,
this is a nerdy podcast. It's all right.
I think that actually works really well, though, to like be a little self-referential, calling ourselves nerds. I think that when I think of like the character Gustave, the main protagonist of the game, he's really nerdy, like in these like subtle ways. And like it comes across as sort of suave, which is like it works. He's very earnest, I think. But like he'll say and do things that are like, oh man, what a dork. And I love that. And I think it's because we see like an affectionate masculinity coming from him. I think the way that I mean all the characters, but specifically men in this game are really interesting because you get sort of like multi-dimensional depictions of their masculinity in a way that I think a lot of games just sort of ignore. Gustave is very vulnerable and very like mentory and I don't know, he shows a lot of sides of I guess, men in general that I'm just not used to seeing in games. And I really, really loved how he was depicted across the board. But nerdy would be the word I would probably cast upon him, amongst other things.
And that's the thing. A lot of the characters, they're so multidimensional, like that you can have subtleness of like, oh yeah, he's kind of nerdy, but there's other layers to him because all the characters are very fully realized, right? We'll dive into the characters unless you guys want to soon, but we can also let's go over the basics of the combat system, so that way when we kind of start diving into each of our characters, we can talk about how they play too.
They each have their own mechanics, which is so much fun.
That's the thing, right? So anyone want to tackle the explaining how this game plays?
So it is so at its core, it's a third-person, like action adventure that then you have these turn-based RPG combat systems where that actually pulls from like your classic, like your Chrono Trigger, where you see the enemies in the environment and you can run into them and fight them, or you can just kind of like beeline past them and skip them entirely. I don't know why you would, because the combat is so fun that I didn't care. I was like, I want to fight them all. But the turn-based RPG, what's unique about this one is that it uses your rhythmic elements, which I saw. So we have a little prep doc. It says, it has QTEs. I never thought of them as QTEs. They are. Either. Because they have rhythmic elements. You know why? Because the sound is so critical to the combat in this game that it makes it flow so good and it makes it feel really good because you get these sound cues, and that makes that button push so much more satisfying. Because if you tell me this combat has QTEs, I think, well, that's terrible. I don't want to do that. But rhythmic elements in a turn-based RPG, different story. So you have that. Like I said, the sound cues are fantastic. You have the enemies who are have attacks that are coming at you they have different sets of attacks, like any turn-based RPG, but each one has kind of a different set of timing attacks, and then you can either choose to dodge, which has like a wider window to successfully dodge an attack, or you can choose to parry it, which is pretty precise, but it's so fast. It's got that, like, I hate to say Sekiro because it's not. I don't like to compare it to Sekiro because it's not Sekiro, but it has that similar
nothing is Sekiro. Nothing is Sekiro.
Yeah. But it's so fast that you're kind of hitting the attack right at the right time, and when you get it right, it feels really good. And then you can do counterattacks if you do parries properly. Each character has its own whole like system. Like they each have their own system, and that sounds daunting, and that sounds like too much. And it's almost too much. It's so close, but each one is really interesting. And once you get the hang of each character, it's fleshed out a lot. Like it's very full. I mean, I don't feel passive at any time during this like turn-based RPG combat, which is really successful. And then you got all kinds of other stuff. You got like skill trees. You got all kinds of upgrade paths.
Yeah, like you said, it's very active. You have to actively be engaging with. You can't just sit there and press a button and walk away and then wait for your turn.
It feels like combat.
Yeah, it does. It feels like combat. You are actively have to dodge and have to attack. Even for your attacks, you have to do the QTE button pressing, right? But yeah, there's skill trees, there's upgrades for weapons, there's equipable items called Pictos that give you different passive abilities, and then you can learn those passive abilities and apply them to everyone in your team, and that gives you some like crazy effects that you can kind of build out your core group however you want to make them work with different things that maybe give you more action points or health on parries or status effects or anything like that you can think of. And really, there's no limit to the amount of these passive Pictos that you can apply as long as you have enough of the currency, the Lumina currency, to be able to apply them. And so I think that's really interesting because there really isn't any limits to what you can do. As long as you farm it, you could deck out everyone and have one hit kill characters. The game allows you to break itself. If you wanted to break it, you could break it, and you're not really doing anything wrong. You're just using the tools in front of you in whatever ways you want.
I was relatively offline while playing this game, and so I was ignorant of what is known now as the Maelle nuke.
Yeah, the Maelle nuke builds,
Speaking of breaking the game,
Yeah.
the way that I ended up playing it was I sort of hooked up sort of like a synergistic combo across some of my characters where I had one character who would like basically start combat by burning the enemy, and then as a result of burning the enemy every turn, my characters would heal like 25%. And so I basically played like the back half of the game at full health like the entire time because of like I don't think it was a broken build. I didn't do a lot of the optional content that would have been more challenging, but like there's this sort of you mentioned, Katie, like how different characters have different skill sets and kind of requirements of how to use them in combat. And you start thinking like almost like three-dimensionally about how not only those innate abilities work together, but then like Travis was mentioning, like the Pictos and the Luminas that develop, you start thinking like 4 layers at once. Plus there's like RPG equipment. You can get like weapons and stuff to equip, and it's a lot to keep track of. And kind of like Katie was saying, like it's like almost overwhelming. I don't think the menu navigation when you're trying to set up things like Pictos and Luminas is particularly strong. There's just like kind of an overload of information when you're customizing some of this stuff. But once you get the hang of working your way through it all, I think it's a surprisingly like welcoming system when it comes to like experimentation, which I found really fun. I didn't do a ton of experimentation, though if I had gone for like the 100% playthrough, I think I would have sort of like been forced to. I think the game would really like push its systems to the limit from what I've heard.
Yeah, I did a similar kind of thing to you where I was doing a lot of burning and using burn heal stuff, but I quickly got into just trying to parry over and over and over again, never really getting used to the dodge. I don't know the dodge timing that well. Like I feel like sometimes I dodge too quickly, or like I dodge and then I can dodge again and I end up getting hit, and I can't get it down right because I focus so heavily on I'm going to get the parrying and I'm going to do the parrying. And then and I played most of the game that way. And then I started getting Pictos that healed me every time I successfully parried and gave me AP every time I successfully parried. Yeah. So essentially I was kind of pushing myself to parry because there was more reward for parrying as opposed to, well, okay, if I miss this attack, well, hopefully I'm okay. But as long as I start getting that timing down, that's how my build started ending up being. And so it was a lot of, okay, keep myself at full health, give me Pictos to more attack when I'm at full health, and all these kinds of things. And you're building and you're building and you're building, right? And like you said, it's very overwhelming and there's a lot of stuff kind of thrown at you. I have one complaint, and I wish you could save certain loadouts, because the fact that like I'm like, okay, I need to go against this boss, but I want anti-blight on or anti-freeze on. Okay, what am I taking off to then add anti-freeze? And then by the time the fight's over, I'm like, I don't remember what I took off to then add on. So I'm kind of like, do I take a picture of the screen? Like, I don't know what to do here, right? So I wish there was a way to kind of save your builds, because I felt like I had a good build and it just kept shifting because I think I was forgetting where I was. I remember I really liked this one and I kept forgetting about it or whatever, right? So
yeah, they give you some stuff. Like you can favorite certain Pictos, and then you can kind of sort them how you want to. There's like a lot of stuff with that about how you can sort them, but it would be useful to be able to save a loadout. Yeah. There's a lot of things about either the UI or the exploration or I always forget this term. I literally said it the other day. I was like, what is it? And then the person said, things that make the game more easy to manage.
Quality of life?
Thank you. Every time. I never remember. Quality of life. There's so many quality of life things that I'm like, oh, I really wish that you had this in there. There's some menu stuff that's just like navigating the menu. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm in the Picto section. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap. Now I just flipped over to the other section. There's a lot of sections. And then there is stuff with the map.
Yeah, talk about the map.
I want map markers so much, because when you construct your map like that, where there are certain things that are earlier in the game that are hard, that will one-shot you. Like, there are optional bosses early in the game that will one-shot you, that you could, if you really, really wanted to,
Parry your way
you could work
through?
at it and learn it. But most people are going to go, you know what, I'm going to come back in like an hour or two, and I'll come back to this.
I was not most people.
That
That first optional hard boss, that's the one that I spent. I spent that hour just like, I'm getting this down, and then from that point on, I was like, okay, this is it. But yes, no. Generally speaking, most people are
just so hard.
Yeah, it's too hard, and yeah, there's no way to kind of come back to it, right?
No, you have to I would have to make notes and remember where and remember the location, and then I would love so much. There are certain dungeons that literally just have a boss. Like, that you're not exploring around and collecting stuff and like multiple enemies. It's just like a room with a boss, with an optional boss. I would love for those little icons on the map to literally do like the Diablo 4 thing, where it's like, I cleared that dungeon, I did everything in that dungeon, to have a little check mark on it. That's all. That like, I completed that. There's no reason to go back to that. Because then I'm looking back and I'm like, crap, where was that optional boss that I wanted to beat? Which one was it? I forgot to write that one down. If you just gave me map markers that I can plop that down on the map, and then I could go back.
Me and you did this a lot, where we were like, where was that one again?
Yeah.
And then I had to ask you had to ask me. We were doing that a lot, where we were just texting names of places back and forth until we got the right one, so that we could keep going, because we were kind of playing it pretty well at the same pace. But yeah, Flora?
Just to explain a little bit more about how the map works. I think it's like sort of like a blessing and a curse of design. It's clearly a deliberate decision to not include something like a mini map or any sort of like interactable menu with the mapping system.
With your dungeons, yes. Yeah, there's no mini map once you get into the dungeons, yes.
So just to like, there's sort of a traditional like JRPG overworld, and then you have like all these random like portals throughout the world that you enter, and then as Katie was describing, like, I guess they function as sort of dungeons. And I completely avoided all of the ones that were labeled like danger or whatever, or like warning, whatever the like high level ones were, like the entire game. But because I was so hooked on the story, I like never turned around and went back to explore anything that I was like previously under leveled for. So when y'all are referring to the first boss, the first one I can think of that's like sort of like out of the way and you probably should wait is there's this like mime in Lumiere in the very beginning, which I missed. But when I watched my good friend play it, I watched her sit there for quite a while trying to parry this thing. And just so the listener, if they're unfamiliar, there are some really strange enemy types in this game. And including some like kind of gags, including literal mimes. Like, how French can you get as a game? And they're hard. Like, they have weird timing. They hit like a truck. And if you're not ready for that in the beginning of the game, like, it'll wipe you out like repeatedly.
I did that one so many times. I was lucky enough to find it because I found that because there are a few trophies, if we're going to talk about just completion wise, there are a few that you can miss, especially in that early Lumiere area, because you don't get to go back to that same kind of space again. And I was lucky enough to find that and to do what I needed to do, because then I was able to get the platinum on this all the way through without having to like do a new save, because by the end I was like, okay, what did I miss? I'm going to go through and kind of check off everything that I missed. And I was lucky to not have made any like major misses in some of those skippable sections. But yeah, that mime right at the beginning that was one of them. And then there was another one in the first like world that you go to that I spent a solid like hour on. Just like, I'm going to get this down. I'm going to do it.
This is so our gaming personalities that I would find those red danger portals and I was like, ooh, excellent. Let's go. And I'd be like, what is it? And then it'd one-shot me and I'd be like, haha, let's go again. And like, you know, it was very Sekiro. It did remind me of some FromSoft, like the harder FromSoft, your Sekiro, your like Dark Souls, of like that feeling of when you go into a boss and you're like, okay, let's do this. And then it one-shots you and you're like, ooh, okay, let's saddle up. Like, let's get on this because this is not easy. But the thing is that though most of those are optional. Yeah. Like, I don't think that there's many insanely difficult regular mandatory bosses. Right?
No, I think if you're, especially if, and I think if you're also going with the pace of the story and you're kind of fighting everything in each little world, each little area that you're going through, you're going to level up accordingly, and you should be decently prepared every single time. You don't have to do a lot of grinding. Excuse me. The combat is so good that I wanted to fight everything. I think if you were just like, I'm just going to run past everything, you would probably come out to a boss fight underleveled and have to rely on parrying and really just slowly chipping away damage. But the combat was so good that I was like, I'm going to just fight everything here. I have no reason not to. You get weapons, you get lots of like dumps on equipment and all that kind of stuff by doing it and upgradable stuff. So it was like, why not? And also that was the practice. It was, okay, I'm practicing fighting this character. I'm getting their timing down. I'm getting their movements down, the sound cues. I'm doing all of the animations, all that stuff, because it does help you later on, especially in like late game stuff. You are fighting some of these characters again and again, especially in some of the optional areas, right? And so you're having practiced those, fighting all those characters in every area kind of helps you in the end game, get you there, right? But the combat's so good that I wanted to. I never felt like I wanted to dodge anything ever, unless I was at a point where I was so over leveled that I was like, oh, there's no point in me even trying this. Like, this is nothing, right?
So, you were talking about dodging a combat.
Yes,
like an encounter.
Yes, like an actual encounter. Yes, sorry.
Yes. So mostly, also would mostly parry. Sometimes though, when an enemy has an attack that is like hard to time, because there's a lot of cool timing, like it keeps you on your toes really, really well. And sometimes it was like, oh, this is a mass attack. They're going to hit all of my people. And if I miss it, they're all going to die. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm going to dodge this one. Yeah. I'm done. So it's like, after I've missed that one that many times, and it's like, I can parry every other attack. Is it worth it for me to dodge, or for me to try and parry this one single attack and fail and die? It's like, no, it's not. So it's very pragmatic about my parrying and dodging.
That's funny.
I feel like after the second hour of my playthrough, I never went back and hit the dodge button again. I think that's no, I'm not saying that to sound like braggadocious or anything. It's just the incentive to parry was so much greater because of the really, I mean, like the counterattack is super cool. I love that it says something to the effect of like Expedition 33 makes their counterattack or something like that. Like that feels epic to me. As opposed to just like your party does a counterattack or something. No, it's the expedition. Like that just feels like existential. And I got hooked on that feeling. Being able to counterattack reliably was super key, I think. And Travis, you mentioned like you said you 100%ed this. You got the platinum.
Yeah.
So that involves a lot of extraneous, difficult encounters, and like you probably ended up at like level like 90 or something.
I was you have to 99. You have to get someone to 99 to get the platinum.
There's a trophy.
That's one of the trophy for it. So I did end up. I think by the end that was the last one I had to do, and I was at 94 or 96, somewhere around there, and I ended up just having to grind my way to the end, which was very slow, but it was also just like, I kind of was just on autopilot. I was doing something else on my phone, just pressing the buttons because I knew the timings. Because I had to, the last final, we'll talk about it later, but I kind of had to build a Maelle nuke kind of build for one of them. And
that
so,
one.
Yes. And so,
I mean, should we just talk about it now? We're talking about the combat.
I guess we could.
And then we could go on to like our characters
Simon
and stuff.
Hard spoilers for the hardest boss in this game.
Just the name of it, really. But like, we're not going to say who it is or anything. Like, it doesn't matter. There is boss. The hardest optional boss is Simon. And he is in the one dungeon, and you go down, and it's at the end of a dungeon, at the end of an already hard dungeon. And you're like, oh, this was already hard. Okay. And you're like, you're feeling good about yourself. And then you get to Simon, who is also the most Elden Ring-ish looking thing I've ever seen in my life. There's the glowing light swords in the background.
Lights,
I'm like, this is Elden Ring to a T. and suitably is so hard to beat because he hits so hard. And then also the timing on some of them, like some of the attacks are like 7 swipes in a row in alternating timing, and like you're trying to get the hang of it. And then you get a little bit of you make a little bit of progress, and then he gets to like phase 2. And then you're like, oh my God, that's twice as hard. How is it twice as hard?
It literally doubles every attack. Every parry requires an additional parry. Like you have to go.
Yeah, almost all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. For it.
Wild.
And then he just has moves that just completely wipe out your entire party.
Are we gonna okay, spoiler wall for Simon. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't want to hear about Simon, skip ahead like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Phase 3. Okay, so I think I was the first one of us to defeat Simon, because Travis was like, I will come back later, and I'm like, I'm doing this. It took me like 3 days. It was so hard. But I'm telling Travis how hard it is. I'm like, I am struggling, and he's like, oh no, this is later.
I'm like, what level are you at? Am I anywhere close?
I think I was like 82 or something, and apparently that wasn't high enough. And then you get to phase 3, spoiler wall, and you're like, okay, here we go, I'm doing good. And then he does a move, because the thing about Simon is that when he kills one of your characters, if you don't revive that character before his next turn, he wipes them away, and you can't revive them anymore. So now you just lost somebody. And as soon as you lose somebody, it's so hard, because now he has more turns than you. It's a whole thing. So you're like, oh God. So as soon as somebody dies, you're like, revive. And then you're keeping pace like that. And then you're like, that's okay. I'm reviving people. It's fine. And then all of a sudden he's just like, nope, I'm going to wipe them all away. Just, and you can't do anything about it.
All of them. All 3.
And the sound drops out, and he does it. And I tried to I'm like, can I dodge? Can I dodge? And you can't dodge. And they're just gone. And then they put in your backups. And I think, I'm assuming all our backups were the guys, same right?
Yeah.
All our backups are the guys, because we all went with the female-only party. Of course we did.
Yeah.
And then you're like, my guys are in here now? Oh, my God. So now you're trying to beat them with them. And then the third phase, it's even harder, because now he's tripling up his attacks. It's just absurd.
So, I ended up... Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to... On the note of party, that's funny that your intuition is that all of us did like an all-female party. First of all, I want to acknowledge that I love that this game gives you that option. I don't find that in JRPGs very often, or RPGs in general. And the women characters in this game rule. Like, they're super
they're amazing.
Cool.
They're amazing.
I actually barely used Maelle throughout my playthrough. As soon as I got Minoko, I put him in. So I will say
I'm clutching my pearls right now. I'm literally clutching pearls. I don't understand.
So I viewed Minoko like Frog from Chrono Trigger, like just this really charismatic like creature in your party. Yes. And I just thought it was funny. And he has this foot fetish, which is also funny. He steals attacks from the enemies you defeat by taking their feet.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
Like, he's modeled after like a dog in the Desandra family. So like kind of like a monkey looking creature, but like also sort of gesturally, which are these like, I don't even know how to describe a gestural. And like, I don't know where you start with the description visually of a gestural. Anyway, so I wanted to throw that out there as like a slight difference. Like I was like Maelle, Lune, and Sciel all the way until I got Minoko, and then I replaced Maelle with Minoko.
Even at the end?
At the end?
Like all the way through, like at the end and everything?
Yeah,
when you're finishing the game?
I kept that.
Maelle was like my favorite.
Maelle's not there?
No, not one of my favorites, but one of my favorites. I couldn't imagine not having Maelle in there.
So Maelle is apparently like the best attack-related character in the game, and I did use her quite a bit. She has these cool like stance-based abilities that can sort of like synergize with the other characters. Like if you get someone burning, then you can transition her into a different stance, and etc. I just didn't click with her combat system very well. Like the stance thing wasn't that interesting to me. I, as a result, put Minoko in because I thought the like stealing attacks thing would be more compelling for me. I was like, if I always have him active in my party, then whatever enemies I wipe out are going to always give me some new ability to use. And so that felt, for lack of a better term, more like efficient, and more like expansive to like explore options of what moves I could use. In reality, I think that like the potential of Minoko's like foot stealing ability is kind of underpowered, especially compared to Maelle, but that's just the route I took.
So initially I was like, oh, Minoko, oh, that's so interesting. And I put him in because I, thought he was just so cool. And then once I stole enough feet, which is hilarious. One of the funniest, we'll get to like camp and inter-character moments later, but when he's talking to
Verso,
I believe, about, and he's like, why do you have a foot? Why are you hitting people with legs, with like dead legs? Like, that's silly. And he's like, what's scarier than me attacking somebody with the leg from their dead brethren? And you're like, oh my God, he's the best. Why wouldn't I want Minoko? But once I used him and defeated enough enemies and collected enough legs that I had enough different attacks, like enough varied attacks to be able to like, because you can only equip 6 skills, but you kind of need enough variants. Like you need enough ones with that require low attack points or action points, some that need high action points so you can hit them like really hard. And also he has like a stance system that you need enough varied stances. And it's like, once I had a decent build, I didn't really feel the need to get more legs. And then I was like, it's just a stance. And it's like whatever stance he happens to be in, because it just kind of like rotates around. Then it's like, then therefore I'm picking that attack because that's the stance that I'm in. I didn't feel that in control, I guess. It was like the actions were kind of chosen for me a little bit, I guess. And I don't know. I just didn't.
This is the one that is powered up, so I guess I'll use this next one. Kind of just moving basically your way through. Yeah. I mean, hey, we're already on the topic of the characters, so we might as well just keep deep diving a little bit on them, right? So we've talked about Minoko a little bit, right? Probably the most inconsequential character we've started with a little bit.
Lovely, but he is. Yes, he has the least backstory, and like he is important to the story in a way, but not in a way where he has his own agenda. He's kind of friends of Verso, and he's with him. But he's not kind of there of his own accord, which is the thing that I really love about all the characters, is that all the other characters have a backstory that's just kind of like touched on just the right amount, where you're like, oh, I learned about you and I know kind of why you're acting the way you are, but we're not just sitting in that. Like, they are not so hung up on their backstory. That is something that kind of informs how they're behaving, but like everyone is together on the same mission to defeat the Paintress. They just kind of all have slightly different motives, but they're all together, which is really nice. I feel like it's very united, which felt nice. To be like, everyone's together on a mission in a time when sometimes we don't feel united. It was like, no, teamwork is we can still do that.
I think that's a really good theme throughout the game. Like, there's this sense of unity, despite a lot of despair, and like the way that grief can like rip us apart internally. Like, it also can sort of like unify us. Mm-hmm. I wanted to give one more word on Minoko, and then we take your pick of what character we want to dive into. The introduction of Minoko, there's this line that I thought was absolutely hilarious, which it was something to the effect of like Minoko being like, "No, I'm not joining your party. No thanks." And then Verso's like, "There will be a lot of fighting though." And he's like, "Oh, there will be a lot of fighting." And he's like instantly convinced. He's like, "That's true. I'm in." And the delivery of it, like just the deadpan nature of this character, I think is the success.
Minoko I found very just like the comedic kind of side character a little bit, and I found him very charming and very entertaining. I barely used him. I barely touched him. I used him only I was like, well, I've barely touched Minoko, and I need to get all the feet to use to get the trophy for Minoko's thing. So
you have to get all the feet?
All the feet, yes. But you know what?
No, that's too many feet.
It's easy.
It's so many.
Spoilers.
It's easy. He hand waves away. It's easy.
Spoilers.
There's like 50 feet.
Spoilers, if you do the entire Endless Tower with him, you get all the feet.
Oh.
Except for like
never
2.
mind. Yeah, I'm taking your credit away then. It wasn't that hard. Okay.
No, it wasn't that hard. No, it's fine. And then I found when we're going to talk about like character relationships and stuff like that, but when there's a mission that's specifically Minoko related, I actually struggled with it because I wasn't used to him. He was kind of underleveled, and it's a fight that you have to do with just Verso and Minoko, so I was struggling a little bit with him. So I found him very entertaining, but I don't think he tied. I just couldn't bring myself to break up those 3 women in my team. We might as well start with Gustave. We've already kind of touched upon him a little bit. He is your introductory character that you kind of see, right? He's got a really basic kind of ability where it's just a meter that just charges to different levels to give you a stronger attack, and all of his attacks kind of build charge so that you can then unleash a bigger attack. But combat-wise, he's fairly straightforward, but he's also your introductory character that gets you kind of the sense of how am I supposed to play this game. And I find the characters get more and more complex the farther and farther. Like as they get introduced, they get a little bit more complex, right? Does anyone want to touch on Gustave a little bit? You did a really good job earlier. Yeah.
I'll just add that I agree that he is he was so earnest and caring. And I think that was the biggest thing, that he was very caring and like protective of people. And like his and Maelle's relationship was very sweet. Yes. And I don't know, he just like melted you. Like I was just like, oh, Gustave's just like, I love Gustave. He's great. I didn't realize how much I needed that male character, you know? And it sounds not that like revolutionary, like, oh, it's a guy who's protective and very sweet and caring and this and
but
that.
It's surprising how often it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen because I noticed it was remarkable to me, and I was like, oh, apparently we never really get this. Not quite. Like, you know, it's not exactly Gustave.
I think one thing that sticks out to me from Gustave, I didn't really use him much in combat. Once I kind of like broadened my party, he sort of became background. But there's one story moment with him that sort of like rings in my memory. And it involves like the beginning of the game, the expedition sets off, they land on shore, you know, across the ocean basically, and immediately get obliterated. Like immediately, like the whole expedition is like wiped out. And Gustave is like seemingly the only survivor. And he's dealing and like processing with like the hopelessness of what he's having to go do, which is like wipe out this paintress. And he's like now looking at it like he's by himself, and having lost everyone he's ever cared about and knew pretty much, including his girlfriend at the very beginning of the game, or ex-girlfriend. He holds a gun up to his head and he's sitting like next to a pile of corpses. And this other character, I believe it's Lune, who comes in and basically stops him from doing that. And that was one of those moments in the game for me that was super emotionally affecting, because, I mean, like, I felt intense shock when the whole expedition just gets wiped off the map. I didn't expect the game to go that hard and that brutally that quickly as well. Like, it was just several layers of, like, shock. Like, it was like a Game of Thrones, like, Red Wedding, like, oh my God. And then I saw this character in a moment of like deep desperation after just having warmed up to him. And like you were just talking about how like caring and empathetic and kind of cozy he feels. To see him in that moment of vulnerability and desperation was like super emotional for me. I thought that was just a really strong directed scene. Just wanted to highlight that, since that meant something to me.
Like everyone has moments of weakness, and then the other team members lift them up and pull them through. It kind of continues that theme of like, of community and like coming together to tackle a goal and like supporting each other. It was very sweet.
Gustave, well, like you said, speaking of Lune, who comes in and kind of stops Gustave from doing what he's about to do, Lune's great. I love Lune. Yeah. Lune, good grief. She's interesting because like she could just be like the mage character. She's got, you know, a kind of a power set that you're using elemental attacks, but they call it staining, and essentially she's kind of building little different colored orbs based on what attack she does, and then consuming them to power up attacks. And that's her basic thing. And she could just be very magey, but she's, you can tell there's like we talked about earlier, all the characters are very subtle and they're nuanced, and there's things like Lune seems not high strung, but she could have been a one note high strung kind of mean character, and she's not.
No,
like,
she's
depth.
more like she's the determined intellectual.
Yeah.
But she could be just like the hard one who's like, doesn't matter, this is the mission, and like I'm shutting out emotion and this is that. But she's not doing that.
No.
She does have emotions. She's just kind of like, there's under the surface, she's a little stoic. But they're still there, and you can.
But there's
still
moments
tell.
of panic too. Like you see moments of panic where she's like freaking out about like, what are we going to do? How are we going to proceed? What can we do to push this mission forward? And you do get little bits of information about like where that drive is coming from, and kind of the pressures that have been instilled upon her, her entire life essentially. And we'll talk about more of that stuff later. But she was very interesting. Flora, any more thoughts on Lune?
Yeah, Lune was by far my favorite character in the game. I echo everything you all just said. I used her because you can swap between character models when you navigate the world. She was like my default character throughout the whole game.
Oh, interesting.
And she glides through the world instead of like physically running on the ground, which I thought was interesting. She's also barefoot, which a lot of people have pointed out. It's just, I think that's like an interesting
a lot of
quirk.
things with feet.
Yeah, I know.
Feet-focused game.
But
Yes.
Hey, I'm not here to kink shame. I'm just here to observe.
No. Just observations.
I found her the most compelling, and I love a mean woman, and I said this sort of jokingly, but I think I'll go on record on the podcast and say I think she's like the biggest crush I've had in a video game since like Tifa Lockhart. This is like a big crush. I'm into Lune. So anyway,
awesome.
Those are my thoughts. I'm not going to say anything about her actual personality. She's just really hot. So
that is a good little point, though. The fact that you can change when you all realized that you could change who the like visible character running through the world was, wasn't that awesome? I was like,
yeah,
I can pick which one, and it's just like, especially for
it's
like
seamless.
linear story RPG, it's seamless. Yes, you don't have to like go into a menu to do it. You literally click the right stick, I believe, and it just switches them, which is so much fun because you can just kind of like swap it on the fly if you felt like it. But like for a linear story RPG, it felt really kind of like free and personalized. Like you feel like it's your playthrough. There's some stuff with like, I don't usually mess with the cosmetics of characters. I'm usually like a default cosmetics. This is how they're intended to be, so this is how I'm going to play it type of thing. But then like story stuff happens that it felt appropriate for me to have Maelle have a different look in each act. And it worked so well, and I was like, I really liked how my playthrough happened, and like which abilities you're using. It's very customizable for something that is not open-ended, right? It's a linear story.
Yeah,
I ended up nice touch.
I ended up, because I was primarily using all the women in the overworld, I used Gustave, and then I used Verso. Even though they weren't in my party, I would walk around with them. Because I was like, oh, this act is Gustave. This act is Verso. And then spoilers for Act 3, but the act is Maelle. So I was like, well, the act character's name is the one I'm going to be the one controlling in the overworld. Despite whatever the makeup of my party actually was, I played the game with that character in that act.
I think I settled on Maelle. Well, I ended up mostly using Maelle. Also, they run so good. They run so fast. It's the perfect running speed. I was like, it's that first time you run and you're like, it's really, it just feels good. Everything about this game like feels really good, which is fantastic. Speaking of Maelle.
Yeah, let's keep going.
She is the little plucky one who is younger than the rest. That
but also
everyone's
very depressed.
They all are. Let's face it.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone in this game is depressed.
I guess she's a teenager, so she gets to be more overt about
Yeah,
her
more
depression
moody
than the
about it,
other
a little
ones.
more emo about it. So she's a little younger than everybody else, and they're like, "Are you sure you want to go? Because like it's not your gommage yet." Like that's what they're like. "Oh, it's your gommage year. Like you're gonna die." They're like, "It's not your gommage year. Like you have years still. Why do you want to go on the expedition?" Because the assumption is that each expedition is doomed. Basically,
Yes.
Like it really feels like a kamikaze mission because everyone is. Every expedition before this has failed, and there's been a lot of them, and they all die, or they all don't come back in any case. So they're assumed dead. So they're like, "Why are you coming? You still have years of your life that you could spend." And she's like, "Well, for what though? Like, I gotta do it." So she's got this like plucky adventurousness, and also she has this like relationship with Gustave that they're very close. So she's like, "Well, you're going, like I'm coming with," and I don't know. She's just. Nobody is a cliche, you know?
No,
like she
yes.
is more nuanced than you would think. You're like, "Oh yeah, the plucky young one who's like more a little angrier, a little more emo, or a little more this, and like feels emotion strongly." But she's much more she's really smart, and just like every time anybody's talking, I'm like, "Oh, what do you have to say?" Because the writing is, I don't feel like there's like a line wasted. Like everything is I felt every like line of dialogue.
Two things on that. One, I think it's remarkable that the main writer for this game, this was her first project.
Yes.
What?
Like,
Yeah.
ever. There's so many of those moments. Like if you watch like dev documentaries or you know interviews with the team, so many of the people who worked on Expedition 33, this was like their first debut of whatever their thing, like including the music, which is like phenomenal, and it was the guy's first ever project for a video game. And so I just want to highlight that because I agree that like it does feel like not a line is wasted, and that's like a difficult thing to achieve in a video game, period. But for that to be your first outing is just, to me, remarkable. The other thing I was going to say about Maelle is that I think her relationship with Gustave was really beautiful as like an opening to the game. Like the first combat tutorial involves you sort of like play fighting with her. And I thought that the relationship, like there's sort of like a mixture, and Maelle acknowledges this later. Gustave is sort of like brother and father figure to her.
Yeah.
So that like that's kind of an interesting blend of roles. There's no shortage of like dad games out there, you know, like Last of Us or like God of War or whatever, especially like dad-daughter games. And I think when I first booted this up, there was a little bit of an eye roll in the back of my head about like what that relationship would look like. But by the end of that relationship, I was like, oh my God, like what a beautiful thing. And it made me care about Maelle a lot more, even though, again, she wasn't in my party very much. But as a character, I did care about her a lot.
Yeah.
It's almost like a young uncle. You know, that you're like kind of close to age. He's like, 8 or so years older, and like you're kind of brothers, but also a bit of a father figure. And Maelle is lacking parental figures because she's an orphan. So that's like her person. And it's just, that relationship is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's so good. And we'll dive in more later on with Maelle. Maelle's great. Her combat abilities are more like stance-based, like we kind of touched on.
Yeah. You know what? It actually is. It's almost exactly like if anybody's played Slay the Spire.
Oh, okay.
As,
no, but I want
if
to.
you haven't, you should, because it's like amazing. The Watcher, I believe it's the Watcher, who is basically uses that. It's like a berserk mode / a calm mode that's more defensive, and then switching between the stances will add kind of a buff. Like just the action of going from one stance to another can boost you. It can give you like more action points and stuff. Different things.
Depending on the things. A lot of Maelle,
strategy with it.
I know I use Maelle a lot with trying to keep her in virtuoso stance as often as possible. So pretty much if the turn can start with it, if every attack can switch her into it, because she does like 200 plus damage or 200% more damage on every attack. So it's a lot of building her back up to virtuoso every single time so that she can just land big hits every single time. So that's the thing. Maelle was very much like honestly, I didn't do a lot of a lot of this game was me just like plowing through. Like Maelle is just plowing through, Lune is plowing through, right? And then the fourth character that we meet is Sciel, who we haven't really talked about yet. She gets introduced kind of near like the midpoint of Act 1, and I think a lot of people bounce off her quickly because she is a little bit more complex. Like,
yeah.
Gustave, Lune, and Maelle initially are at least explained pretty straightforward, and you can kind of get the sense of it. Sciel's, you're like, I have to do what, because essentially you're playing cards. She's kind of got like a tarot deck kind of thing, and you're balancing light and dark. And you have to attack with light attacks and then consume, and that builds a meter almost on the character that you're fighting, and then consuming that meter and with a dark attack, which then puts you into Twilight, which is kind of an ultra buffed stance that Sciel gets that then allows you to put out really big damage. And honestly, I thought about like a lot of the characters and how they kind of work. A lot of like this game could easily just be every character has like a little bar and you're just filling the meters. Like but they fancy it up enough.
They have
every
full
character
game mechanics. That is a full own that another game that could be the whole like combat mechanic.
Yeah.
And that is one character and they each have their own one. That's crazy.
The thing. It's crazy because like you could, if you took away all the fancy, the Fortell with Sciel, the Stains with Lune, and everyone just had, here's your meter, and you're just filling it up, you would actually kind of get a very similar game. But they zhuzh it up just enough, and every character is just different enough that, yes, okay, you're filling an overcharge meter. Okay, yes, you're filling a Fortell meter. Okay, yes, you're filling a Stain meter, and you're consuming those meters to then do attacks. They are very similar along the board. Even verso, you're building up a meter and then coming down the meter, and but they feel so different at the same time. It's a really, really clever like masking of what could be.
They're totally different. They're completely different.
But I think if you took away the fanciness and it was just replaced with a bar, you wouldn't know any different.
Well, yeah, because it'd be a totally different game. Sorry,
no,
Flora, you had a point. Go ahead.
What would be the difference? What would be the difference? I'm not saying it's
the
a bad thing.
Combat
I'm saying what would be the difference? Not really.
I was simply going to say that I think I agree with that. Like if it was like an ATB system, like Final Fantasy or something like that, it would be boring. I'm going to say that. Like it would make like an impact on the quality of life. But this game is filled with design decisions like that, and I just wanted to make that point. And I think something that just came to mind when you were describing some of the like UI around the different character combat systems. We haven't talked about the UI in combat, but it's very like Persona 5 or Yakuza Like a Dragon sort of inspired, where it's super stylized and it feels really good to use, and it's like simple. It's really easy to understand. There's also the like an almost I don't know how to describe it, almost like an Estus flask system in part of the menu, where like you have like sort of like a fixed amount of healing things that replenish between like combat encounters. I just wanted to highlight that because that's another one of those moments where like they did not need to go nearly as hard as they did, and if that was taken away, just like the sort of like combat UI, I think that this would be a much more inferior game. Like I think that like all of the design instincts of the team across the board were like just over the top enough to be like, wow, that's really impressive. And for me, it like brought the game up quite a bit.
Oh, 100%. It's there is enough interest and like a tactileness to everything that you're doing. Even like flipping around in a character's menu in combat, it's like this like ratchet sound when you're opening up another part of the menu that like clicks in and opens, and then the camera kind of swings around, and it's and then all the animations for all their attacks are phenomenal. Like I never got sick of watching each attack.
especially when you're landing the button mashes
so
with the sound at the same time. Like, oh man, Lune, like I would do a wildfire and she'd stomp the fire into the ground, and each stomp just felt so good. Oh yeah, there was just something about it. It just worked really, really, really well.
You feel the game, like you really, really feel it, and that's what makes it land. Because yes, if it's just a passive bar is filling, you hit the attack button, it does the thing. It's not the same game at all.
Yeah,
like
it's not. No, don't get me wrong. I wasn't saying it is that game. I'm saying it's similar.
I'm not going back to that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's similar in that you are just a lot of it
core,
is filling.
It would be the same game, but yes,
you're filling a lot of meters and using the meters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but there's effort. That's the thing. There's effort put into every element of this game. Nothing feels just tacked on or just like, oh, we did that and that's good enough, and we put that in there. It's like, no, nothing was good enough. Everything is done to a T for max effect, and it's I think that's the biggest thing about this game to me, is that it's like, no, this game was made with so much love and so much effort, and I appreciate it very much.
Yes. I don't know if anyone had anything they want to add about Sciel at all. I really enjoyed Sciel just as a character generally. She fluctuates because I actually kind of think, like, I think sometimes, is she my favorite character in this game? I don't know what it is about Sciel that I really enjoy. There's a calmness that she has in all the chaos. And she is dealing with a lot of grief of her own, but she has like such a positive outlook. There's a lot of contradictions with Sciel. She kind of flip-flops. Like she's dealing with a lot of stuff, but she masks it, and she's comforting and caring, and when someone else is spiraling, she is there for them, and she's kind of that calm in all of the insanity. And like, I think Verso makes a comment to her once, like, you're so calm, and she's like, well, you know. And I think there's some depth to Sciel that I really enjoy, and I found it interesting because I do find that there's a balancing act that she's doing with dealing with her own stuff, but also being almost a mothering kind of nurturing character too. And it's interesting because like her combat is balancing light and dark and kind of merging the two, and she's in a perpetual state of twilight herself, kind of. Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I thought, like, oh yeah, she is doing that. She's always contradicting, and her combat system actually reflects that. And so I don't know, there's something about Sciel that I was just enamored every time she was on screen. I know that like Lune is the obvious girlfriend choice when you're like thinking like, who am I gonna crush on this game? And I don't know, I really like Sciel. There's something about her that I just find very interesting and compelling, and I can't fully put my finger on it.
Well, I mean, all the characters are hot. I don't think we
100%.
that, but like,
yes.
like
they can
like
all get it. They can all get it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, 100%.
I really,
all of them.
I really appreciated Sciel. I feel like she has a sort of like haunted optimism about her. Like you mentioned, like the grief that she's like kind of holding on to, but there's this sort of like hope for the future despite that.
Yeah.
I really like that in a character where like, I don't necessarily relish in characters suffering, but like the characters have chosen to like persist despite their suffering. And I feel like Sciel really like does that. And there's like some really beautiful, vulnerable moments with her as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I think her and Verso hook up at some point, if you do their little like side character interactions.
Oh yeah.
So like, you know, they can all get it as you just stated.
As for Sciel, the thing is, if this game made their characters one note, she would be the overly optimistic, the overly positive character hiding a deep, dark sadness, right? But she doesn't play it as this, I'm so happy-go-lucky, everything's going to be fine kind of character. No, there is like a subtlety to her. There is a sadness behind her being positive, or at least her being calm in the face of like the chaos. And I think that's a testament to the writing, a lot of it, right? Like we talked about. And then I think the last character that we haven't touched on is,
I think we need to wait for Verso.
Oh,
you know?
Kinda.
Because I don't think we can really talk about Verso much.
Verso is a character that you can play. You can play as Verso. Yep.
Yeah.
Party member Verso.
Verso is another, because as we said earlier, there's a lot of like French terms that get thrown in there, like gommage is a a gomme effacé, which is an eraser, like a standard pencil eraser, which is they're erasing a year of people. It's good. But verso, I'm assuming that they're doing like recto verso.
That's what I was thinking too. Yes,
which is verso is the back side of a page.
Yes,
which is so like recto is the front of a page. Verso is the back side of a page.
Yes.
If you were doing a photocopy front and back of a page, you're doing recto verso. Which I'm like,
I know.
Interesting.
When we met him initially, I was also like, what does his name mean?
Yeah, why is it verso? Oh my God.
Why is it verso? No idea. Yeah.
But yes, I think we need to wait.
So yeah, I think we're going to save more discussion about verso for our part 2 of our Clair Obscur Expedition 33 series. So we're going to end this episode right now, and then next episode we're going to touch on more of the rest of the story. We'll talk about the art direction, the sound design, all that kind of stuff. So for right now, what you can do is 2 things. You can give us a follow on socials. You can follow us on Blue Sky at leftbehindgameclub.bsky.social, Instagram at leftbehindgameclub, or you can join our Discord at leftbehindgame.club/discord. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. And stay tuned for our part 2 episode coming soon. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Travis Colnut. Katie, where can the folks follow you?
I am also on Blue Sky. I am Lesperak, Lesperak, and I'm also in the Discord.
Flora.
I am pretty much everywhere at Flora Marigold. I spend a lot of time in the Left Behind Game Club Discord, and you can catch my written work at epiloguegaming.com.
Nice. And so yeah, stay tuned for our next episode coming soon. And I guess shout out Mike Ruffalo. And that, my friends, is half of One Less Game Left Behind.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey.